action.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Sew Studio. My name is Sarah Campbell. I am one of the owners, and we are in our Duluth shop today, which we were here the other day as well in our last live video, but we're up here in our Duluth shop and showing off some new machines this week. And one of the ones that came in this past summer, or was released by Janome's line this past summer, was a Continental M6, and we didn't really have a chance to talk about it yet with all of our customers. So we are here today to kind of introduce that machine and show you what that one is all about. Priscilla is behind the camera, and she is here to film and also to kind of keep me on track. So if she needs to offer some advice, then that's where I'm getting it from. A lot of you know Priscilla. What?
No. Take off your headphones. I don't think it's. I'm looking. Sorry, y'all. Interruption.
Can you hear me now?
There, I think. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So once again, welcome to Sew Studio Duluth, and we're here to talk about the Janome Continental M6, which is a fabulous machine. So this is the machine here, and I actually have it turned off right now because I wanted you guys to see just how bright and beautiful the lights are when we turn it on. So that's step number one. So we're going to come in and just flip the machine on, and look at all those pretty lights coming on. Okay. So one of the things you'll notice right away about the Continental M6 is it looks very similar to the M7 and the M8. They are all sisters, right? And this one came out this past summer, and it is the little sister to the Continental M7, but it's the exact same framework and housing and everything. So it's got a nice large footprint, and that gives you this beautiful thread space in the machine of 13.5 inches. And that was, when the Continentals first came out, we were just kind of blown away by the size of them. Like you have so much room in here to roll up a quilt or to get a big handbag in there or something like that. So that is right away what people notice first off about the Continental series is just the size of the machine. And it's a pretty hefty machine. There are some handholds down here. It's a pretty hefty machine, has some weight to it. So it's not maybe one that you would want to take to your quilt retreats or travel with very often. Although we do have customers that do, and they'll bring them in for classes because they're such a dream to work on. You just don't want to be without it kind of thing. But it is an amazing machine for your at-home machine where you've got it planted on your table, and it's the one that you sit at when you're working day in and day out on your different projects. So this is your at-home, this is gonna be your new baby, and you're gonna love on this one when you get it, I promise. So the Continental M6 comes with this beautiful color on it. It's nice and light and bright. It's sort of a gray with a bit of a purple tint to it. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's a little bit shimmery. It looks bright and shiny and pretty. And the screen on the Continentals is raised up here to eye level basically, and it's moved over near your needle section. So you've got lots of visibility onto the screen and manipulating your different stitches and your stitch options and everything that you've got going on. So it's all sort of centrally located, which is really nice for not having to, look all the way over here for a screen to make changes to your stitches, okay? So that's one of the things we noticed right off about it. It is like a big singular powder coat base. This is not a free arm machine. So if you are looking for a machine where you can take the the extension table, the accessory table off and use the free arm option on the machine to do small cuffs and things like that, this is not the machine that you would choose for that. You can. I do hems, cuffs, small baskets, all those kinds of things on machines like this. I have one at home, and I just turn them inside out and roll everything up here instead of rolling it around the base of the machine. So it's not something that has ever held me up, but it is one thing that you want to be wary of when you go into the Continental series is that you no longer have that free arm option. Okay, so let's see what else we want to say, first of all, about the exterior of the machine. So another thing I love about the Continental series is you have the upright spool stand on the back of the machine. So we can put cones of thread back here, and we don't have to worry about a spool cap even. We're just gonna pop it right on there. And then I'm gonna bring my thread up here and take it through this extra little hole over here too. This machine sews really fast, and so we want our thread, can I get it in? There we go. We want our thread to stay in place up on that thread tower when we're sewing, so we're gonna run it through both of those holes there. It also helps too, later if you shut this down and put a cover over the machine because you're not gonna use it for a couple of days, or just overnight or whatever it is you wanna do, then when you bring it back up, the thread is still there. It's locked in place. Okay, so we're gonna thread the machine. We're gonna go from up top in this tower through this little loop right here. We're coming back here, down here, and I just want you guys to see how easy and smooth this threading is and how quickly I can get this done. I'm gonna pop it in my thread uptake lever, down behind this guide, and then I'm gonna pull it all the way to the left, and I'm gonna bring the thread up into my new superior needle threader. This is a new needle threader that they put on this machine, and it works like a dream. So we're just gonna pop the thread right in there. Very easy to see where my thread path is and where I'm going with that. I think you all agree. And then I'm gonna take off the end of the thread. I always do that so the needle threader can just push the end right through. There's a lever over here, down and up, and my needle is threaded. All right, so that was super simple. So if you're looking for a machine that's easy to thread and got lots of visibility, this is your guy. I mean, I can be right up here and I can still see my needle. There's no obstructed view here. It's just a lovely masterpiece to work on. Okay, so that's threading. And then we've got a bobbin down here, and we've got our easy set bobbin. I also want to show you, while we're looking at the needle plate right here, I want to show you how easy it is to get underneath the needle plate and clean out any lint or check your bobbin case for any dings that might be holding up your thread. So I'm going to go over here to the screen and I'm going to hit this lock button. And then I'm going to press this button right here, which releases the needle plate. And it's on a magnet, so watch this. I'm going to press this button and watch what the needle plate does. Look at that. Isn't that cool? So easy. And there, the magnet just rotated back down. I can take out my bobbin case. And this is a little troubleshooting tip for you guys. Every now and then you want to come in, you want to clean your bobbin case, and you want to feel around the outside of it for any needle strikes, any rough patches that might be catching your thread. Okay, and this one's brand new, so there's not a thing on it. We're gonna dust all that out. There's a little place to put a drop of oil right there. No big deal, okay? Don't ever blow anything down into your machine. You wanna get a little vacuum or get some Q-tips and gently wipe any dust out from in there. And then when you're done with all your maintenance, checking your bobbin case, that kind of stuff, you're just gonna put the needle plate back on, and I'm just gonna drop it, and it's on. Very easy. I love that about this series. Okay, so now we're gonna go thread the bobbin. I'm gonna unlock the machine real quick. So bobbin case goes right here. Let's see, our bobbin goes right here. I'm gonna put the bobbin in, P for perfect, drop it down, and then I'm gonna bring the end of the thread around under this easy threader, around the circle, snap off the end, and that's it. Put my case back in. I don't have to pull up my thread. I don't have to worry about the bobbin thread at all right now. Okay, pop that up there. All right, so we've talked about threading the machine and how much of an advantage it is to have these upright needle spool stands. So you can put your other spool of thread over here on the one on the right, and then you can wind a bobbin at the same time without having to unthread your machine. Here's the bobbin winder here, so we would just take thread up here through these holes around this tension screw, and then come over here, pop our locking mechanism down, and this machine has an independent bobbin winder. It's spinning, you can't hear it, it's silent, it's so cool. Okay, speaking of motors, this machine has the brushless motor, and it is some kind of technology that you guys don't probably want to get too far into, but it's a motor that's designed to sew with a lot of punching power. It sews very quickly, it's very steady, and it will last a really, really long time. It's very quiet. It's a lovely, lovely machine to work on, but it does have the new brushless motor in it that the Continental series is touting. You get the best of the best in this machine. Wait till you hear the price. guys just hang around. Okay, so I've talked about threading the machine. We've got all that done. Let's look at the front of the machine and see what kind of options we have here. So we have our speed control, right? This is your maximum speed that this machine is going to sew at. So you can control sort of like a, what is that word I'm looking for? Not a regulator, but a governor. So you can control the maximum speed that the machine will sew at when you have your foot pedal pressed all the way down. Okay, we have needle up and needle down button right here. Easy enough. This one is a locking stitch, so I can actually tie a knot between my top thread and my bottom thread, and what that looks like. This is, I don't want to do a full owner's lesson right now because you guys have access to our video on the Continental M7 and that's pretty similar. But I did want to show you some of these features and just get you guys kind of, if you're not familiar with the Janome line, sort of what those buttons and features look like. So I've got my presser foot down, or not down, right? I've got my fabric underneath my presser foot and my presser foot is raised. This machine has an automated presser foot, so I can lower this presser foot right there with that button. And then if I hit this locking stitch button and just tap it one time, it's blinking now to tell me it's engaged. And then I'm gonna hit the foot pedal and, as Julie would say, mash the foot pedal. And it does a couple of stitches right in place, and it's tying a knot between your top thread and your bottom thread. Why would you ever wanna do that? Maybe you want to do top stitching on a handbag and you don't want back tacking stitches to show, or you just have some purpose where you want to make the very beginning of your stitch just be really, really pretty and not have those back tack stitches, right? Sometimes I'll do it too, like in the middle of a, I know you're supposed to pull up your threads and tie knots and do all that kind of stuff, but sometimes if I'm just doing a wall hanging, I'll tie knots in the middle of my project and do my sewing, my echo quilting, and then tie another knot. And that way I don't see those back tack stitches, the knots on the back of the project. It's going on the wall anyway. That's a little cheater solution there. So I've tied a knot. Now when I press the foot pedal again, the machine's just gonna sew in a straight line. Okay. And I've got some speed control on my foot pedal. All right, it stopped with the needle down. So if I turn on this pivot function right here, this is another great thing about automated presser foot. If I turn in that pivot function right there, then when I stop sewing, it's going to leave the needle down. It's gonna raise the presser foot up so I can sew in a new direction. This is like lazy man sewing. Okay, you wanna see how fast it goes? Let's crank it up. What is the speed on it, Priscilla? 1,300 stitches per minute. I wanted to say 12, but I was wrong. Okay, here we go. Ready? Isn't that cool? And then again, I've got my pivot function on. Look how pretty those stitches are. So pretty. Okay, now that I'm done sewing, I can tie another knot. And then I have a thread cut button. So if I hit this button right here, it's gonna cut my threads and pull my needle up for me. Presser foot's already raised. Done. Bingo. Lazy man sewing. Okay, so if we don't wanna do tie a knot, we can do a traditional back tack with the reverse button. And I also wanna show you the automated presser foot. I don't even have to lower it. When I hit the foot pedal, the machine will lower it for me. And then I can hold down my reverse button and do a couple of stitches there. Okay, that was really fast because I've got it on really fast. Watch this. Hold down the reverse button and the machine sews backwards. Okay. There we go. All right, so that's all the buttons up here. And again, that automated presser foot function is phenomenal, really cool. We get people in our classes that sit down at our machines and they can't remember to lower the presser foot, because once you start on an automated presser foot, you'll never go back, I promise. Okay, and then we have this screen up here. Let's talk a little bit about what's on the screen. Do you need a chair, Priscilla?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Brief intermission break. If you can hear us, if you can't hear us, let's go that way. Please comment below and we'll put our headphones back in.
How would they comment if they can't hear us?
I don't know. The microphone's going on
Okay.
up and down, so I'm assuming that they can hear us.
All right. Please comment if you can hear us. And if nobody comments, then maybe we'll do something differently.
You're also welcome to put the headphones back in at any time.
Okay. All right, so we've got our screen here, and let me just walk you through what it is that we're looking at. So first of all, we had our pivot function that we talked about right there. Okay, so it's got a image of the needle down, the needle plate, and the presser foot raised above it. So that's pretty easy to tell what that is. And I can turn it off, and I can turn it back on. The button next to it is single needle versus double needle. So if you are doing some project where you want parallel stitches, you want to use a double needle, then that's your guy right there. Okay. Now here's a little known fact about this double needle situation right here. Really what it does is stops the machine from moving your needle so far left or so far right that your outside needle is going to strike the needle plate. So what it does really is just lock down that double stitch into an area of the needle plate that both needles can fall into, okay? So that's really a double needle button. That's really what it does, is it just limits your options on your needle placement. All right, so we'll turn that back off. This one lowers your feed dogs, pretty simple. Okay, and this one right here turns on AccuFeed. We're going to talk about AccuFeed in a little more detail, but I want you to notice that when I press these buttons up here, it changes the recommended foot. So if I drop my feed dogs, I just drop my feed dogs, now it has a free motion darning foot showing there. If I put them back on, it has my regular A foot showing. Okay, when I hit my AccuFeed button over here, in AccuFeed or dual feed is like your walking foot or your even feed foot. And so now it's changed to a picture of that. Okay, so let's hesitate right here for just a minute and let's talk about dual feed. So you have on your sewing machine, you have feed dogs underneath your needle plate. Okay, and they rotate around. Yes, thank you, Priscilla. They rotate around and they grab your fabric and they move your fabric back as the stitch is being formed, and that's how the machine sews in a straight line, basically. Okay, it is feeding your fabric, but you notice that it's only feeding the layer of fabric that's on the bottom. Okay, let's pull our needle back up. Woo! Sewing without a foot. Okay, so it's feeding the layer of fabric from underneath. The feed dogs are underneath. Okay, so if you have fabric, you have 2 layers of fabric under there. The bottom layer is getting grabbed and dragged by your feed dogs, but the top layer is dragging against your foot. Okay, there is some minor drag there. There are no feed dogs above your fabric, so the bottom fabric is getting fed by the feed dogs. The top fabric is just kind of dragging along by that foot. So short seams, really not such a big deal. When you have a really long seam that you're sewing, so if you're doing the hem of a skirt, or you're doing a handbag handle, or you are quilting 3 layers of material, you've got your quilt top and you've got your batting and you've got your quilt backing, all of that is feeding at different rates, okay? And so a short seam, you probably wouldn't notice the difference very much, but when you sew a handbag strap, you get all the way to the other end and that top layer has kind of walked off of the bottom layer, okay? Instead of being perfectly lined up, you've got this situation going where your bottom fabric has fed more than your top fabric. And then it starts to get a little wavy. So what they did was they invented something called the dual feed foot, or even feed foot, or walking foot. And hold please, let me grab it out of the box. Don't look at this, this is something we're gonna talk about. No sneak peek. Okay, here's the dual feed foot. So this machine is compatible with Janome's dual feed foot. This foot is not included with regular machine purchase. However, we're going to talk in a few minutes about the Christmas bonus, and the Christmas bonus includes this walking foot, this dual feed foot, okay? It's called AccuFeed, and it's really Janome's sort of like amped up, we call it a walking foot on steroids. Okay, there's a couple of advantages to this walking foot. So first of all, when you put it on, it has this little hook here in the back. So when I put it on, I'm gonna put it on with the ankle screw over here. I've unscrewed the regular foot ankle, and I'm screwing this one on just from the side here. And then I'm gonna reach around the back, and you probably don't have to show this in this video, Priscilla, but I think we show it in the CM7 video pretty well too. I'm gonna reach around the back and I'm gonna push that little silver hook, and it's gonna lock it in, right? And what it's doing is it's hooking it onto the motor that controls the lower feed dogs. So rather than a regular walking foot, if you guys have ever seen a sort of a standard walking foot, it has a little bar that balances on your needle screw right here, which is the faster you sew, the bouncier it gets, and it can have some, they work great. Regular walking feet work great, but there can be some difference in the effectiveness of the foot if you're sewing really fast or you have different materials under there, that kind of thing. So this one is controlled by the same motor that controls the lower feed dogs. The advantage of it hooking into the motor is that not only does it feed the fabric from the top, but you can change how fast it's feeding the fabric from the top as well. So let me just show you, first of all, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let me show you how it works. So it has feed dogs on the top, and they're right in here. And I'm gonna try to go slow, and you guys are gonna see them work. See them move forward and grab the top layer of fabric and move it along in concert with the bottom layer. Okay, so again, we've got a short seam here, so it's probably not gonna be super noticeable. But if you had a really long seam, by the time you got down to the end of the seam, if you don't have a walking foot on, your layers are gonna kind of edge away from each other. But if you have this walking foot on, they will not. Okay, so it's really advantageous. The speed of these feed dogs relative to the speed of the feed dogs underneath can be controlled on this machine and with this AccuFeed walking foot. So, so it's pointing at me because it's in here. Okay, so I'm in AccuFeed, right? And I've got my stitches that are available with my AccuFeed foot on. And then I go here to make adjustments to that stitch. This here is my stitch balance controller. So this controls how fast these feed dogs are working relative to the feed dogs underneath the bottom layer. Why is that important? If you were sewing 2 layers of quilt weight cotton to each other, then this default 5 is where you're gonna wanna be. But if you have 2 different materials that you're sewing together, so let's say you have a really stretchy knit kind of a layer on top and then a regular quilt weight cotton underneath, you might need the feed dogs on top to feed a little bit faster than the feed dogs underneath. So if you want it to do that, then we're gonna come over here and we're gonna increase the speed of the top feed dog, okay? You can also decrease the speed of the top feed dog. Let's say you have a knit or a stretchier fabric underneath and you've done some testing and they're still walking away from each other kind of weird. You might need to decrease the speed or increase the speed of the walking foot relative to the lower feed dog. So that's a really cool thing about the AccuFeed system that you can't do with a regular walking foot. The other really cool thing about the AccuFeed system is that you can snap off the foot. So if we're talking about the foot of the dual feed system, that's this guy right here. This is the regular AD foot, and it looks very similar to this guy right here, right? But then you know what a 1/4 inch foot is, has the flange on the side, so you can stay 1/4 of an inch away from your fabric. You can get a 1/4 inch version of this. You can get a stitch in the ditch version of this. You can get an open toe version of this. And I've showed them in so many videos, I decided not to get them out today. But I highly recommend getting the different versions of this foot that go on this. So if you watch some of our other videos, I go into more detail or show exactly what they look like. But basically there's a 1/4 inch one, there's a stitch in the ditch. I don't think I could live without those 2. The open toe one I like, but I don't use it nearly as much as the stitch in the ditch or the 1/4 inch version of that. Okay, so those are additional accessories you can add on as well. So back to our buttons. Let's get out of this. So let's turn our AccuFeed back off. And then the next button over shows us just a very big glossary of all the stitches this machine has. So these are the utility stitches. We've got regular straight stitches. We've got stitches that automatically back tack, automatically tie a knot, left set, triple stitch, tons and tons of stuff. Zigzags. These down here are like your blind hem and your overcast. Let's see, there's blind hem right there. There's an overcast stitch. So these are all utility stitches. Look at this one right here. This one sews backwards. The machine sews backwards. Very cool. Okay, buttonholes, lots and lots of automated buttonholes. You can sew your buttons on with this machine. If you're not sewing your buttons on the sewing machine, you're doing something wrong. If you're still sewing them on by hand, come see me. I'll teach you. We got applique stitches. Some cool cross stitch stitches that are very fun to use for decorative things. Heirloom stitches. Look at all those pretty guys right there. Quilting stitches. So there's your 1/4 inch stitch. So the 1/4 inch stitch, because this is a 9mm machine, the needle drop positioning is very wide. You have lots of needle drop positions on this machine because the hole in the needle plate that the needle can go down through from left to right, your needle positions measure 9mm. Okay, so when we put a regular foot on and our needle is in center position, it's nowhere near the 1/4 inch guide if we put a 1/4 inch foot on there. So we have to put the machine into the 1/4 inch stitch. Okay, let me go back in there. All right, we'll just cruise through some of these other cool things. Look at all these quilting stitches. Look at all this fun stuff you could do. You ever do these cool stitches on the side of your applique just to jazz it up, or along your binding strip? Ooh, so fun. Some of the ladies up here in Duluth teach some quilting classes, and they use these decorative stitches to finish their quilts, and they're just gorgeous. You ought to come see. Okay, so there's tons and tons of stitches, actually 11 pages of stitches, and all of these are fun to play with. So I don't want to get too deep into what it all is, but look, Christmas trees, stockings, holly. Guys got to get in there. Okay, here's one thing I got to show you though. These mirage stitches. We did a class in Bogart on what mirage stitches look like, but they are sort of like, it'll do this whole satin stitch of a stitch, and then it leaves a gap and does a whole satin stitch and leaves a gap. And the way you do that is really fun to learn. So if you get one of these machines and you want to take advantage of our free and unlimited owner lessons, one of those owner lessons might be, hey, I know my machine has mirage stitches. How do I do that? And come in and we will sit down with you and show you exactly how to do those. Okay. And then you have created stitches too. You can actually go onto your computer and create your own stitches and upload them to the machine. All right, so that's that button. And then here we have some just sort of direct select stitches, things you might use regularly. We are actually in the quilting category, so these are our quilting stitches. Let's go back out to utility. So again, here are the utility stitches. These are the first, this is the first menu page that comes up. And then we've got buttonhole stitches, right? And then decorative stitches are actually broken down into different categories. So when we were talking earlier about applique, you can go in here and see all of the applique stitches. And then we have some lettering. So we can do little tiny monograms, 9mm actually tall, so not super tiny. We can do monograms, we can do quilt labels, we can write little sayings, you know, on things. It's really fun to get into that. And then we've got tapered stitches. So we can choose a stitch, like let's just go with a regular satin stitch. So if we make it really wide, oh, that's the tapering one, hang on. Where's my stitch width? Right here. So I'm gonna go wide so we can see a little bit better. Okay, so you see how the ends of the stitch kind of come together in a little point? That's tapering, and you can take you can taper the front and the end of the stitch, and then you can actually tell the machine how many stitches you want it to put in between, how many renditions of that stitch. Or you can just do infinity, and then it will sew this, and then it will do the center stitch until you hit the reverse button, and then it does your end. But this is really cool. Why would I want to do that? What if you're doing like a handbag or some kind of a pretty stitch on a quilt or something like that? You might not want it to just like abruptly start the stitch and abruptly end it. You might want it to taper it so it looks really pretty. So if we turn it off, let's turn them both off and see what it looks like. So that's what the stitch would normally look like, just a flat end. But then we can go in and we can taper. And we can make it have pretty ends.
If you don't have an embroidery machine, tapering stitches are also a really good way to do like motifs. Like we've done a snowflake before. That's a really cool. It's something really fun to play around with.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, so that's tapering, and then the last one down here is your t-shirt icon. And the t-shirt icon is your sewing applications for Janome. So you can come in here to sewing applications, and there are a couple of different categories. So we have sewing, and then we have quilting, and then we have sort of like the really cool feet that don't come with the machine that you might get into. So let's start with sewing. So we have all these categories, so we can actually come in and tell the machine like, hey, today I have this knit t-shirt that I want to finish. Like it's too long and I want to bring the hem up on my knit t-shirt, okay? But knit isn't something that I normally sew on, and so I might have a hard time trying to figure out how to set my machine up for that. So you can actually come in here and tell the machine, hey, I have this knit fabric, I cut off the end of my t-shirt and I want to over edge my knit fabric. It'll tell you a couple of stitches that you can use, and sometimes you get in here and it'll ask you what kind of, like, do you have a heavy material or do you have a lightweight material? But for each of these stitches, it's going to set up a width and a stitch length that are appropriate for that stitch and tell you what foot to put on so that you have success in sewing that material that you may have had a hard time figuring out. Okay? Or we can come in and we can say, I'm doing a rolled hem today. Perfect. You want to do your rolled hem with a straight stitch or with a zigzag stitch, or do you have a 4mm or a 6mm foot? All of these things, when I press the stitch I want to do, it's going to tell me what foot to put on there. It's going to change the length and change the width and the tension in order for you to be successful on that project. Okay, so these here, there are 3 pages. So we've got, some seaming, some over edging, curves, shell tuck. There's really cool stuff in here. Let's go down to page 2. There's your zipper, lapped zipper, pouch zipper. We've got some gathering. So all these things that you might not do on a regular basis, you can come in and tell the machine, hey, today I want to do something kind of different. Help me figure out how to set up my machine for that. What stitch do I use? What tension? What stitch length? All of that becomes very easy. And then we have quilting. So we get into here a lot because we're a quilt shop in Bogart. I don't know if y'all know that. But we have patchwork piecing. We've got free motion, ruler work, applique, all sorts of quilting options there. And ruler work is a really good one. And free motion for a machine this size, if you can imagine doing some free motion work or some ruler work, having this unimpeded space for your material and your hands to reach is just amazing. So for free motion work and ruler work, you really want a machine that has a nice wide space like this, and the Continental series fits that bill. Okay. And then when you get into the specialty feet, you've got beading and a ruffler foot and ultra glide and all these kinds of things. So when you get into, a machine like this, you can know that whatever kind of a craft or whatever kind of a sewing project you pick up in the future, this machine is going to allow you to grow into it. So you can learn all of these new sewing applications, and the machine's going to help you, and you're going to have the ability to be successful on all those different projects. So we always tell people, don't buy the machine for the sewist that you are now. Buy the machine for the sewist that you want to be. For all those projects that you want to pick up, all those new skills, buy the machine that's going to allow you to grow into those different areas now, and then you won't regret it. Okay, so those are some things that you may not touch right at the beginning, but they are some options on the machine. Okay, let's get out of there, go back. All right, I touched on this briefly before, but let's just go back to our regular straight stitch. Over here on the left side of the screen, we have some things we want to look at. So this one right here is your needle drop position or the width of your stitch. So if I'm on a straight stitch, like I said, this machine is a 9mm needle drop machine. So you have from left to right, your possibilities of your needle placement measure 9mm wide. So when we are in the center with this straight stitch, we are at 4.5mm. Okay, I can change this number up and down, and this is something that even seasoned sewists don't realize. You can change this number up and down in order to move your needle left or right. So sometimes I have a project where I'm trying to follow along a line and I need my needle to fall exactly behind a certain part of my foot, or I'm up against a zipper and I don't feel like changing to my zipper foot, or up against a seam of some sort and I just need that needle to move over to the left so that I'm not riding up on top of that other seam. So I can just take this little button right here, and as I go down in number, you can watch the needle move left and right. Okay, so now I'm still in a straight stitch, but my needle, and I just tried to lower the pressure foot, you guys, but my needle is in the left place instead of center placement. Okay, so that's needle drop position, or if you're in a stitch that has a width to it, like let's go to a zigzag stitch, then it becomes the width of your stitch. And I can increase that like that. Okay, this one over here is your stitch length. So this is how far apart the spaces are where the needle goes into your fabric, your stitch length. So I can take that up and you can see very clearly what happens to a zigzag stitch when I increase the stitch length. That's a pretty clear picture of what stitch length does. Okay, this machine goes up to a 5 in stitch length, which is pretty good. That's more than some other machines out there. So if you're looking for a machine that has a lot of variables that you can control in designing your stitches, that's a good one to look at, what your stitch length is. The max stitch length on this one is a 5. I think the only one in the Janome line that's bigger is the HD9. Mm-hmm. Is that right? The HD9 has a longer stitch length available, but 5 is great. Okay, this button right here that I just touched, this is your little pop-up screen. So if these numbers are unclear, they're too small, or I want to get in and I want to look at tension and something like that, then I have this little pop-up button. This is where I get into making my stitch adjustments. All right, these two, the width and the length, are going to come up in the pop-up again. So when I hit this pop-up, then I see the width repeated and I see the length repeated. I also see a new one here. This is your tension, and this is your presser foot pressure. Now this machine, the tension is controlled electronically, and it has a great auto tension setting. Most of the time, you're not going to touch that. However, if you have a thread on top that's a lot thicker than your thread that's in your bobbin, or a tricky material, you may need to come in and change your tension on your thread to be something different. Okay, so lessen your tension or raise your tension. And you are controlling the tension on your top thread. So the tension mechanism is in here. You are controlling how tightly that is binding up that thread or grabbing that thread as it's feeding through. Okay, and then over here is your presser foot pressure. So this is how hard this presser foot is pressing down on your project. So when I lower the presser foot, it's pressing down with a pressure of 6. I can increase or decrease that depending on if I'm sewing on a thicker fabric or a lighter weight fabric, or if I'm sewing a curve. Let me go back to straight stitch so I can demonstrate this real quick. Priscilla's hogging the presser foot. Okay, the foot pedal. Okay, So if I'm sewing a curve, if I'm trying to rotate my fabric, do you see how it's kind of grabbing a little bit? It is rotating, but it's sort of grabbing it a little bit. I'm gonna put it on pivot. Okay, so I sewed a nice curve, but as I'm sewing this curve, I can see the fabric kind of just dragging a little bit, right? Okay, so let's decrease the pressure of our presser foot. Come in here and I'm gonna take this down to a 2. Okay, so now the presser foot pressure on the fabric is gonna be less, and now I can more easily turn my fabric underneath to create those curves. I can go tighter curves, just whipping it right around. I might even go less than that. Let's go down. 1 is as low as we can go. There we go, look at that. I'm able to turn those nice little curves. See that? Okay. It does make things a little slippery under there, so if you are sewing regular straight seams, you probably want to be up here on the default setting. Now let's talk about default settings. So I can come in here all day long and I can change all of these lengths, and I can change my tensions and change my presser foot pressure. And then I go, oh no, I don't like how I adjusted that stitch. I'd rather go back to what Janome said I should do on that stitch. Piece of cake, hit default. And it brings all of your settings back to the defaults for that stitch. If you notice, the numbers are black when they're in default setting. So if I change them, they change to blue. So now I can tell that I have done something different to this stitch because they're blue. And I hit the default button and it goes back to default settings and it makes them all black. Okay, let's say I always like for my stitch to be a length of 2.2. My straight stitch, I don't want it to be a length of 2.4. I want it to be 2.2, and I want it to be 2.2 every time I turn on my machine or every time I go to my straight stitch. I don't want to come in and adjust it every time. No problem. Look at this down here. Favorite stitch settings. So I change that off the default. It's 2.2 now. I can save that setting as a favorite stitch to the machine, and now it puts a bracket around that number. So the 2.2 is bracketed. That means it's a favorite stitch setting. Okay, so I've got it saved as a favorite stitch. Now my stitch length is 2.2. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna go do zigzag for a little while. And then I'm gonna go back to my straight stitch, and look at that. My stitch setting is saved, 2.2. I can turn off the machine and turn it back on, and the stitch setting for length of stitch will still be 2.2. You can save a favorite stitch setting for every stitch on this machine. And actually you can save 2. And it will not erase the stitch setting for your previous stitch. So now I've adjusted my triple zigzag to be a width of 5.3 because that's where I like it. And next time I turn on my machine, my favorite stitch settings are saved for each of those stitches. Okay, that's one of the coolest things, because I will be working on a project at home and I will have, maybe I'm paper piecing and I want my stitch length to be 1.6. Or I have my 1/4 inch foot on and I really want it to be a scant 1/4 of an inch. And I'll be working on the same project for a month or more, and I want to save stitch settings for that project so that if I go on vacation or I go to work for a few days and I come back and I pick up that project again, I don't have to think about where my needle drop was or what my stitch length was on that project, because the machine's gonna remember for me because I saved it as my favorite stitch setting. And then I can go in at the end of that project when I'm done with that particular quilt or bag that I'm working on. I can go in and erase those settings and start over for my next project. So that is, use your favorite stitch settings. Use them and love them. They are awesome. Some people, don't want to come in and change it to, really what they're doing is piecing all the time. So they want to go in and, get in the 1/4 inch stitch for their piecing projects. But every time they turn on their machine, it defaults to this straight stitch right here. No problem. you can just change your straight stitch to be a 1/4 inch stitch up here on 8.3, or maybe I want to do a little scant and I want to go to like an 8.6. And I'm just going to save that. And I'm going to save it right over that one. So now this is the straight stitch on the machine now becomes my 1/4 inch stitch. Every time I turn on my machine, I'm right there in a 1/4 inch stitch with my needle drop placement where it is appropriate for that 1/4 inch foot. Okay, so use those favorite stitch settings. They're super handy and wonderful. What else did I cover? Okay, there's one more button on here I want to show you. So if I go into, let's say, animals, and I have these elephants, okay, they're super cute, and I'm sewing some elephants, and I'm going along. Let me sew some elephants. It has the F foot on there, which is a satin stitch foot. This stitch might be a little bit prettier with an F foot, but it'll work with an A foot. They have the same needle drop hole, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm going to sew some elephants. I'm going to speed it up. Elephant, elephant. Okay, I stopped sewing that elephant right in the middle. Hard to see with white thread, but I stopped sewing that elephant right in the middle. When I go start my next row of elephants, I want it to start at the beginning of the elephant and not where it quit. So I'm gonna hit this little button right here, and this starts your stitch sequence over again. So now it's gonna start the front of the elephant again. All right, how often do you sew elephants? Not that often. So a lot of people wonder, how handy is that? Let me show you the real world application of it. That's just a really good demonstration of what it actually does. So there's my elephant started all over again. But here's a real world application of it. Let's go into applique. And I'm going to pick an applique stitch. And you can see on this diagram, the machine has a lot of stitches. It goes down, down, back up, over, and down. And it moves in all different directions, okay? And so let's slow it down. So the machine goes forward and backward and left and right in all of these different directions, okay? So it's fine. I'm sewing along on my applique, on the edge of my applique, and everything's going great. And then I stop on a corner and I want to turn and continue on. I don't know if the machine's going to go forward on its next stitch or it's going to go backwards because I wasn't paying attention, but I don't want it to go backwards because that would leave a stitch outside of the box of my applique. So I'm going to go hit this little button right up here, and it's going to start that stitch sequence over. So now it's going to go forward as its next stitch. So I have a nice, beautiful corner on my applique. Okay, so that's a more practical, real-world application of that button. It's pretty cool. All right, I think that's all I wanted to show you on the actual operation of the machine. I mentioned earlier, if you buy machines from us, you get unlimited owner lessons. And so you can come in when you are ready to get in here and do a different type of stitching or work on a different project, and you want to make sure that you are using your machine to its fullest capability, or that you understand all of the functionality of your machine as well as you can come in for one of those owner lessons at any time if you buy a machine from us, and it's no charge, and we'll happily sit down with you for 20 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever it takes. If you're like, I want to learn how to free motion quilt, I need to know how to set up my machine for that, and I need a couple of tips on it, that's a great owner lesson. Okay, that's a great owner lesson idea. Or if you're, having trouble threading the machine or some kind of basic operation, we're happy to help with those. Technique classes, like how to draw a feather in free motion, that's an actual class that's different, but how to operate your machine and how to be comfortable with your machine is something that we are very interested in sharing with our customers on a regular basis. We want you to love your machine, and we want you to use it to its fullest capability. So let us do those owner lessons with you. And we can sometimes do stuff over FaceTime or in person, or whatever's convenient for you to help. okay? So that is included with all of our machine purchases. This machine, now, if you guys hung around long enough, we get to pricing. And that's one of the things that's gonna blow you away on this machine. So this machine is the Continental M6. It's been out since this summer, and the pricing has been what it has been. It is lower now than it has ever been, and it is a price that we are allowed to tell you online, which isn't the case with all of our machines. For instance, the Continental M8, the version of this that has a stitch regulator, is a machine that we sell that we are not allowed to purchase or sell share prices with you online. So that one is here, and I have put a little star over it, like it's edited out. But the Continental M6, this price down here will knock your socks off. $3,999 for this machine for the holiday season. This price will not last forever. It's for the holiday season, $3,999. The MSRP on this machine is $6,999. Say what? That is an unreal price, and that is valid for this holiday season. You also get a gift with purchase during this holiday season. So to be clear, this is 2024. It is now October 23rd. Our holiday season goes to December 31st, 2024. So this price is valid to December 31st, 2024. And the gift with purchase is also valid for that same time frame. The gift with purchase is a great one. So this machine is kind of, it has lots of accessories that you can add to it that are phenomenal accessories that are not necessarily included at purchase. Okay, that's how they get to that amazing price. You add on what you want and not what they think you want. So, but gifts with purchase for this holiday season include all of the ones that we would recommend you add on, including this extension table. Okay, so if you don't have an Arrow sewing table, first of all, if you don't have an Arrow sewing table, you should come get one. Your machine sits down inside it. They have versions that the Continental fits in. We are an Arrow dealer, so please come see us and let us show you that. But barring that purchase, maybe you don't want to get to that purchase quite yet, this extension table, which I don't have all the legs down on, that's my problem, comes in your holiday bonus gift. Look at that. Isn't that incredible? And it has measuring numbers down here, so you can measure off your blocks of fabric, and you're quilting along, and it calls for that, 2x9 piece, and you cut it somewhere and you're not sure where it is in your pile. Just lay it down there and you can see, oh, this one's 9 inches long, or this one's 10. So that's lovely. It gives you this nice free motion space, ruler work space, and the legs are adjustable, so if it's not quite lining up with your machine base, you can make adjustments there. And it has one other really cool feature. It's got a drawer. Ta-da! Okay, what would you put in your drawer? You can put your little bobbins right here, and you can put the extra feet in there. You can put a little pair of snips in there and close it right up. You can also put in here your extra needle plate. So this machine comes with, here I go, going back to the machine stuff. We'll get back to the rest of the holiday gift items in just a minute. This machine comes with a straight stitch needle plate, which is a really cool accessory. It divides up your needle drop hole into smaller bits. And when you put it on the machine recognizes that it's on there. Okay. And it's going to lock out the stitches that would break a needle or sew your fabric to your plate, and only give you the stitch options that are available for this straight stitch plate. But the straight stitch plate keeps you from pushing the corners of fabric down into your needle drop hole when you're starting on the edge of your quilt, right? Sometimes in that little triangle it goes, we don't like that. So straight stitch plate will help with that a lot. So we have this straight stitch plate, we're putting it on, we're taking it off, now we have a place to store it. Right there. Beautiful. And then your AccuFeed foot also comes in this holiday bonus package. So we have the extension table, we have the AccuFeed foot. You do not want to miss out on this AccuFeed foot. I'm going to put it in there. I'll take the stitches back out. Look, slides right in. And then a couple other things. You get an accessory box, which you can use for all your other feet, because this machine comes with tons and tons of feet, and not everything's going to fit in that drawer. We don't want everything in that drawer because we're not using it all the time. All of these feet can be organized into this beautiful box. There's our bobbins we can put down in there. Some extra needles in here, that sort of thing. Spool caps, we don't even really need them on this machine. Pretty though they are. Look at that, comes with a ruler work foot. That's pretty cool, right? Got some free motion feet in here. That's your free motion zigzag, variable zigzag foot. Got some free motion darning feet. Open toe, closed toe. There's tons in here. Okay, and then another really cool thing. So this box is part of your holiday bonus, right? The box to put it all in. And then the second to last piece of this holiday bonus kit. I have too many things in my hands. I got confused. I have too many things in my hands. This right here is your HP needle plate. So this one, you remember your straight stitch plate that divided up the needle drop hole into 3 little sections? You see that there? The HP needle plate has 1 single needle drop hole. All right, and I'm going to talk about why that's important in just a second, but not only do they give you the HP needle plate, they give you the HP foot. All right. Okay, here's your regular foot, regular presser foot, okay? And it's gonna sit on your feed dogs kind of like that, just sort of standard in the center. The HP foot is narrower than your regular foot, right? It's got its own ankle, which gives it lots of stability, keeps it from rocking side to side when it's on fabrics and things like that. And it has really cool markings on it. So your needle drop's going to be right there, which is where this line is. And then 1/4 of an inch ahead of it are these lines right here. This edge of the foot is 1/4 of an inch, and that edge of the foot is 1/4 of an inch. This foot, you put it on, you might not ever take it off again. The other thing it does is it brings the foot over to the left placement on your feed dogs, which brings your bobbin thread up straighter and gives you a really beautiful top stitch. So this is the bag maker's dream right here, this little combination. It's also quilt piecing, echo quilting, just about anything. What you can't do on this machine or on this setup is anything but a straight stitch. So you put this on and the machine's gonna lock you down to just a straight stitch, which you can adjust the length of. But you can't do like a zigzag or a decorative stitch of any sort with this setup on there. But if you're just quilting or you're bag making or, a variety of projects that you would want to do, this setup is dreamy. It's going to make you look like a real professional HP. So that one would fit in there too. So these items come in your holiday bonus package. So you get the HP plate, HP foot, your AccuFeed foot, the beautiful extension table, this box to go with it, and one more item, your optic magnifier set. Let's see if I can get this out and show you what this is. So this guy right here is magnifying glass that pops into, don't fall, pops into the machine. Oh goodness. Right there. Okay, and it swings out of the way, but then it comes across here so you can see in fine detail what it is you're working on, or how to thread that needle. Now, you're like, why would I need to see the needle to thread it? Because you talked about how great the needle threader is. It is really great. You have to protect your needle threader though. If you're using a really thick thread or you're using a needle with a very fine eye to it, then you don't want to use your needle threader because it'll throw it off. So in those cases, you're going to want to thread your needle by hand if you have a thicker thread or you've got a needle with a really small eye to it. Sometimes if you're using a needle sometimes the needle eye height will be different too, which can throw off your needle threader. So I use my needle threader religiously when I am using a 40 or 50 weight thread and like a 12 or a 14 needle, and my needle threader has been operational, never fixed, for 13 years on my machine at home. The needle threaders go out on customers' machines because they are trying to thread a bent needle or using a thicker thread or a small eye of a needle, or they're slamming it or something like that. So just protect your needle threader and they'll work a really long time. But if you do have those instances where you're using a thicker thread or you need to, do something a little bit differently, or maybe you need to see your fabric a little bit better, you have these magnifiers here. And this is the 20. There's also a 40 and a 60 included in this set. So you get, some real magnification possibilities there. Okay, and it just pops on and off. It also just swings out of the way so you don't have to worry about it when you don't want to use it. And that's the holiday bonus package. So once again, if you're just now tuning in, we are offering the Continental M6 until they don't make it anymore. Like, it's a machine that's going to be steady in our shop, but the pricing on this machine of $39.99 is only valid now until the end of December. So if you want an incredible throat space at a really affordable price and some really cool free bonus gift items, this is the machine for you, and you need to come and let us place an order for you for one, okay? Because the ones that we have in the shop are gonna go like that. So let us know you're interested and we'll make sure we have it when you come in to purchase. Okay, we can also send this one to you. Mm-hmm. We can ship this one. So if you live in South Carolina and you want to come shop with us, no problem. We can sell this one online. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then you'd get with it the unlimited owner lessons. And if you live in South Carolina, we'll just FaceTime with you and we'll be happy to talk you through anything. Did I miss anything? Oh, I always do at the end of the video. A freebie. If you mention that you watched this video, and it's going to be on YouTube too, so people can go back and reference it. If you mention that you watched this video and it led you to purchase this machine from us, we're going to throw in a couple of extra freebies. So for this machine, because you're already getting extension table, walking foot, all these HP, everything that you need in this box to organize it all in, I thought you guys might want some Janome bobbins. This is a bobbin case that has some pretty beautiful blue bobbins in it that'll work in all your Janome machines. Caveat, it will not work in the HT9. Those beautiful blue bobbins. And then we're gonna give you some pre-filled bobbins too, okay? And those are super easy. I have a stock of them at home and that's what I throw in, so I don't have to wind a bobbin when I'm in the middle of a quilt project or something like that. All right, so these are freebies if you mention that you watch this video and you come in to buy an M6 from us, or give us a call to purchase one over the phone, then we'll be happy to throw these into the box as well. All right. Happy Halloween, everyone, because we're almost there. Thank you so much for watching the video, and we very much look forward to seeing you all soon. And we are, until October 31st, donating 5% of our proceeds to the Northeast Georgia Cancer Foundation. I think I said that right. In honor of some of our customers and some of our longtime friends and survivors and people battling now. And so we very much would be interested in getting you in the machine that you want at any time. But if you buy through the end of October, we're gonna, some of your funds are going to a good foundation as well. So just a little push there to get you in soon. Thank you so much for watching, and let us know what you would like us to do videos on, and if you can hear us or if you cannot.
We may have just sat through this past hour without any noise at all.
You live and you learn.
Okay.
Thanks so much, everyone. Bye.
Bye.